Well, hello, welcome back. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. This big blue Pontiac, I guess light metallic blue Pontiac 350. Not the car sitting on its side, because that's perfectly normal. What we're going to talk about today is taking this engine here and placing it back on the subframe. I know that doesn't sound overly complicated, especially since it's out of the car, plenty of room to work. Maybe that's not that exciting to you, but for me it is, because it's the first time that we put a nice engine back into this car to actually make it run and go down the road. So there's a lot of things, if you've never had one of these all apart, that we're going to cover by putting the engine back on the frame, like how the engine mounts work, what exhaust manifold you should be using, all those kind of things I plan on covering while putting this back together. So that way, maybe save you some headaches and some grief, or you can watch me just put this together, have some fun, grab some popcorn, and just say, John, that was pretty cool. Or put in the comments, go, John, that wasn't that impressive. Either way, you can send me some comments. I appreciate it, because that keeps things rolling here on the old YouTubes. But nonetheless, let's get this 350 on our engine hoist and flop back on that frame. Let's talk about what we got to work with. This is our 350. Last go around, we got this all painted and pretty. About 3 days later, got some time to let it dry. I peeled some of the tape off, some of the stuff, couldn't resist. Started sorting some bolts out, etc. Now, let's talk about these right here. Let's do a quick little lesson on Pontiac engines and engine mounting bolts. First generation Firebird, 67 through 69, only need these 2 bolts here. You'll see later engines have 5 bolt bosses on it. Later generations, they use the other 3. And then late blocks, like the last few runs, I think it's like 76 and on, only have the 3 bolt holes. So you will not be able to actually take an engine out of a newer car and put it in your first gen without buying adapter plates to come back to these 2 holes here or fabricating your own engine mount. So keep that in mind. You have the 2 bolt holes, the first generation, first run of the cars. 5 bolt holes is universal, fits all. And the 3 don't fit on the first gen. So check that before you start rebuilding your block. Not impossible, but you got to overcome that obstacle. So if you have the choice between a 2 bolt or a 3 bolt block for a first gen, go with the 2 bolt. Now these bolts, I have the original bolts that were actually in the engine mounts. Now these 4 bolts, one is slightly longer than the other. It actually goes on this side over here, on the driver's side. It will go here. What will happen is when you put the engine mount on, if I had it, I haven't found one yet, there's a bracket that comes off this bolt head down to here that helps support the backside of the starter. So what you'll see, if you have the original bolts, one will be slightly longer, and that's where it resides. So I'm going to grab the engine mounts so we can get those put on the block. Let's talk about these engine mounts. There is no difference between left and right, but not all engine mounts are created or recreated equally. What I'm talking about here is this hole the bolt actually resides in. This is the bolt that comes through the frame of the subframe into the engine mount. The factory bolt is configured like so. It's pretty lengthy. It's a 1/2 20, I believe, thread pitch. But the problem is the length. The replacement engine mounts, most aren't drilled the same depth. So you have a couple of choices. Try to find the other engine mounts that actually do clear. They're out there. I can't tell you the part number. Trim the end of the bolt off, or just go to the local hardware store, 1/2 20, and get you some slightly shorter bolts. The other thing, you have a locking washer and this serrated washer here that actually covers up that hole, because the hole in the frame is a very large oval, so this actually helps fill in that gap on that there. So I have all the correct hardware now. Go ahead and install these on the side of the engine block. Engine mounts installed, and if someone has one of those extra starter brackets that wants to donate one to the old VVG, let me know. Next part of it here, I've got it on the engine hoist or engine cherry picker, whatever you want to call it. I think that's self-explanatory. I tuck a bunch of rags between the chain and the intake because I just don't want to mess up that pretty paint. That's what's going on there. Let's talk about flex plates and flywheels. There's essentially 3, so I used to think, but I've been educated here a little differently. Flywheel, thicker metal, set up for a clutch. The other problem with a flywheel, if you have in comparison, the bolts are different between a flywheel and a flex plate. You can't use regular bolts on the flywheel because sometimes they're too tall and they'll actually hit the clutch disc. So if you're doing a manual transmission, inspect your bolt height. Make sure they're going to work. A flex plate bolt won't be long enough to go through a flywheel, so sometimes people go to the hardware store, then the head is too tall. So just keep that in mind if you're doing a manual trans car. Slush-o-matics, that's what we're doing in this car. But you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 torque converter holes. That's a bonus for me. If you look here with the circle, this is closer to the outside, this is closer to the inside. There's dual bolt patterns. Sometimes you get a flywheel only has the small, sometimes you only have the big. This one happens to have all 6. And the good news is Pontiac, they're all neutral balanced. This flywheel or flex plate will fit any of them. Now, if you're doing a performance build, I suggest having it all balanced as a unit. But for the most part, you can swap out pretty much any of them and no worries. There's no big weight welded on these things here. So now technically you can change that out afterwards. I'm putting it on now because I don't have a transmission to set in here on the frame. And you see my little jacks right there? I intend on putting the jacks underneath the flex plate so I don't scratch up the paint on the oil pan. So if I didn't have the correct one, because I don't have the torque converter to test this out, I always suggest test fitting a torque converter, checking your bolt holes before installing a transmission. We'll do that later because I don't have it yet. But if it had the single bolt pattern, I maybe have to take this back off. So just FYI, as I'm doing it, not in a particular order besides I want to put a jack stand underneath the backside because the engine mounts are kind of midway. It balances pretty good and it's actually quite stable, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to get the transmission picked up, so I feel better if I put a jack stand on the back edge. So the next thing is now, flop it there in the frame. What could possibly go wrong? Now, if you guys see anything that's going to go sideways, you just let me know. Just scream real loud, so that way I know I'm about to do something dumb. Stuck in the rut in the garage floor. For some reason I seem to have put it on the engine hoist backwards. Makes it front wheel drive. Okay, judging by that, just kind of need to just go down, it looks like. I sure do like that Pontiac blue. Might have done this a time or two. I actually went in pretty good. Now, let's see if I get this one bolt started. It's pitched towards the passenger side just a little bit. So I need to get this one in first and let it kind of fall down into place. At least, that's what I hope. All right, here's what we're working on. I'm gonna try to put the bolt here through this hinge mount. I've got it kind of wiggling around, as you can see. And my hopes are, I just reach through here, hopefully, and still get that thing to line up. Oh, I have to go back up, so it looks like. Okay, that should do it. Hopefully. Oh, whoa. That moves pretty easy. There it goes. Now, get some turns on that. We'll let it down and snag the driver's side just the same. Now when you get this engine mount, see how the thing's moving around, push back and then down into place. So, same thing. Let's push this engine back here with my hand and hopefully let her down nice and easy. The point where it almost touches. And then, hopefully, I'll be able to get that bolt lined up in that hole. This will be the prettiest engine that's been in this car in a long time. Let's see. Oh, I am too low, so I need to go back up with it just a little bit. Alright, now I gotta work. I can move that chain. All I gotta do for now, I'm gonna get these bolts in and just snug, because I need to leave it loose in case I need to adjust it. So there's a chance with the transmission on, I might need to change the pitch or the angle of this thing a little bit. Alright, there we go. Now, let her down in place. Put my jack stand right in the back here. Oh. Or maybe not. The jack stand is too tall. Okay, there we go. That'll work. Now, let's get this thing out of here. Okay. Unhooked. Check. There we go. That looks a whole lot more gooder. You know, this is probably worth just taking in for just a moment. This last time this car's looked this good, if ever, was when it was probably new. It is kind of nice to see that little gem sitting right there where it's supposed to be. Now, what we're going to get into next is these piles and piles of parts sitting back here. Exhaust manifolds, all the accessories, lightning hoses, as some people say. Distributor, I've got that all set up, changed it over. I have a carburetor, not that one. Power steering system. All the accessories I'm going to start putting on this engine. That way we can go ahead and test fire it here on the frame. But as for today, my little helper, Ed, is going to have her last volleyball game of the season. So I'm going to go check that out. But I'm feeling pretty good. Knock this out. No major catastrophe. Hope you got a few little tips or tricks out of this here for you. That helps you with your Pontiac build if you're going that way. Or even then putting other engines in. Just get everything laid out, test fit it. You know, get a plan to put the thing together. I was able to rest out in there by myself without any damage. So it's possible, but if you got a hand or a friend that's going to come over to help you out, definitely say yes. An extra set of eyes would be super ideal when putting this in, especially if you're trying not to scratch or cause any damage to any of these surfaces you just got done refinishing. So anyway, nonetheless, thanks for following me. Next go around, we'll start putting all the other parts on. We're going to do some contrast. It's all blue. We put the black pulleys on there, the alternator, everything starts coming together. It looks like an engine. It's like building a full-size model kit here in your two-car garage. So nonetheless, thanks for following me, and we'll catch you all next time.